Well, and just a great guy, obviously, and just wants to help people. And I can't say enough about him. And his his sponsor left, and his sponsor left, and kind of all the way up. So anyway, but he still plugs in everything. So very good. So today, what I want to talk about is just some new AI tools. And I was on a call last Thursday. I'm on a call every Thursday with Leo and Preyas and the CEO, and Glenn is sometimes usually on there once a month. Seth Sigler was also on this call. He's the CIO of EXP, and some of you may have met him at some of the recent events. He was in Carlsbad for the regional rally that some of you went to, and just a real sharp guy. And the thing is, he and Glenn go every few weeks to either meet up with Google in person. They fly wherever it is, Google, Microsoft, any AI meetings. And what they're saying is that EXP is the only real estate company in the room because they know all the executives, and it's an invite only. You can only have a place there if you meet a certain qualification. And they discuss all the latest tools coming out. And there's a lot of things happening. And one point I thought was interesting was number one, no other company, real estate company, is coming to these events. And Seth's point was they're probably still going to like Inman Connect in New York or San Diego or where all these Inmans are, which, that's getting information third, fourth, fifth hand. Um, and then the other thing is some of those companies that are attending are not even in the real estate business, but because of AI, they probably will be. So, that's an interesting thought. Um, because I mean, you can, I don't know how much y'all are playing with AI, but you can just put anything in and it will just give you so much of a path to follow. I've been reading recently, and I think he mentioned on the call too, where you can put in ChatGPT to be my be my financial coach, and this is my current situation with assets or whatever, and I want to be to this by 5 years and back it out 3 years and 1 year and 12 months, and hold me accountable by the month and by the week and by the day what I have to do, and don't hold back, be honest. So I think what's amazing with that is anything people want help with, you don't have to go out and pay an expensive coach anymore. Like Doug and I were paying $2,000 a month, for a wonderful coach, very successful, and got great information, of which these calls are part of that we did. So I'm grateful for what we did, but it's just not necessary now. Uh, I think it's amazing. And to the other point is you got to be plugged in and doing it and being accountable, and that's the huge word, and that's where most people are going to miss out because they're just not really plugging in. Also, Seth said, well, no, it's really Leo and Glenn said that if agents are not using AI, you will be out of business in anywhere from 18 to 36 months. And so think about that. I know, somebody might say, oh, well, no, that's not true because I love to do, whatever and work one-on-one with my few clients or whatever. And, okay, so maybe that happens. But basically what they're saying is the speed to lead is an agent's not going to be able to keep up. And for example, and I know I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but I think it's always important that we mention things often because if you're like me, you go somewhere, you hear something, unless you really write it down or have AI take notes where you can go back and review, it just kind of goes in and you kind of forget about it. And then later you go, oh, I heard that. Now I remember what it was. But the example that Leo gave was really significant. And this was an agent in Houston. And Amy, you may know his name. I don't know his name. I can't remember, but he's an agent in Houston. And he was playing on the weekend on Saturday with his son, video games or whatever. And a lead came in online, and he had everything set up, and he's not a tech guy, but he had things set up where his email would reply, text, whatever, and set the appointment to meet with this person. He met with them on following, Tuesday or whatever, put a deal into escrow, closed it 2 weeks later, and he was really hands off until he sat down for the appointment. And so the point of that is that, other agents, and whether it's an online lead or just someone calling that you've not talked to in a long time that you may not realize on a Saturday or Sunday or whatever. It's just all the tools were taking advantage and helping you set it all up. And so that's a situation where I think someone would not be in business because they would lose that one deal. Whether it doesn't matter if it's online, it could be a friend or relative, but we get busy on the weekends or whatever, or evenings, and we don't answer something or we forget to reply. And this all does that for you. And so here's the other point of the equation here was that he had, when this client went into AI, maybe, I don't think Google, but AI, whatever, and asked who was the number one realtor in Houston area that focuses on investment properties and buyers and sellers and so on and so forth. This person came up overwhelmingly. And the reason why was because he had specifically loaded all this stuff into ChatGPT AI specifically. So, he may not have been the actual best one, honestly, or there for 20 years doing it, or 5 years, or even 6 months, but he manipulated, in lack of better words, the content by all of his YouTube or posts, social post, or whatever, and it made the AI realize that he's the best and gave it to this person, and they ran with it. So that's where, it's going to be hard to compete. And here's the other thing is that, you know, I had for fun, just a couple of weeks ago at the end of the open house I was doing, I just thought, oh, I'll just shoot a little video here and put it on Facebook. And it was just really for fun. And I did that and just toured the backyard basically. And on Facebook, it said it had 1,400 views. And then it had, maybe a dozen people commented, but one of them is an agent in Houston and not with EXP, but I had connected with years ago on another situation. And so I was in his group or whatever. He saw it, and then it's caused probably, 10 or 12 texts going back and forth this past week. Very interested in this property, but couldn't get out to see it because of some family things going on. And then he went on to say that he had looked at properties 2 years ago or a year ago with an agent. And then he told me the agent's name. I know who the agent is. And he said, I can just tell you in my last few texts here, what you've told me, different things, not necessarily about the property, but how to, view the area and ideas on how to buy it and different things is so much more than all of the visits I made with this agent. And anyway, then I thought a little more about that, and I looked up the agent on social media because I hadn't seen this agent in a couple of years, basically on social media. So he's still around, but when I looked at his website, it went to nothing. So maybe he's on a team with a major company. I think the company was Douglas Elliman or something, or Sotheby's. Um, but the point is he's probably still selling. I could look him up on MLS to see what kind of volume he's doing, but he's probably still selling, but he's not, present. And so I just think all this is really interesting to think about. And here's the other thing is, it can take hours to do some work, and yet all of this AI can do it in a matter of minutes. So it's going to shorten our time that we're in it. So I just wanted to share with you some of the uh, AI sites that Seth went over with us, and one is called Cursor. Has anybody raise your hand because I can kind of see somebody? Anybody use Cursor or heard of it? Okay, so and there's quite a few, and I really don't want to go over a bunch of them. I really just want to kind of go a couple just so that we all get it, and then want to run out and use it rather than me do like 10 or 15, and then it's like, okay, that's overwhelming. What are we going to do? I think this is very important. And I just tested it to see if it would do what I thought it would. So let me share my screen and show you. I think, Chris, you got to approve me. Okay, you got it. Okay, good. So let me find it here because I already set it up to do it. So I don't know if you know that you can, okay, your screen sharing. Did you just see it says Zoom? What does my screen say to y'all?
It's a chat GPT. Just go ahead and upload your file whenever you're ready. We're seeing
Okay.
that.
All right. So that's not what I'm seeing, but let me see. Let me stop that and try it again. Share. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Now I can see what I'm talking about.
We're still looking at your
The
purchase
same
agreement
thing,
summary.
yeah.
Okay. All right, let me stop it one more time and I'll try it. And if it doesn't, then I'll tell you, but I'd rather show you. Sorry, I've practiced this before and it's worked for me. I don't know why I keep seeing Zoom. Okay, so I'm gonna not share and I'll just tell you. So, okay, now you see it said purchase agreement summary in the middle.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So what it did was, so I loaded this called Cursor into my Chat GPT, system. And I said, can I upload a purchase agreement contract and ask you for a summary of the terms, which are specifically filled in that I know exactly, and I got to move my little screen here. So that I know exactly what the specific terms are without seeing all of the boilerplates. Because how many times do we get a contract and we go, okay, I got to look at it first before I tell the seller, or yeah, right, the seller. So I got to look at it. And like I just did recently, I took a notepad and I wrote down, I went through the contract and I went blah, 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 blah. And I also, for this buyer or this seller, because he was extremely busy, I said, look at number one, number two, because here's a lot of times we send a contract to somebody and we say, sign it. And then I know that I'm guilty of saying, okay, we sent it. Why haven't you signed it? Well, we're really not thinking that we look at this stuff all day long, 365, and we're sending this to somebody that's never seen one of these in years and expecting them to sign something quickly when they all know that they're supposed to read before they sign. So I just tried to make it really easy. And then later the seller told me, you made that so easy on me. I can't believe it. So I wrote out on a piece of paper, basically, number one, number two, number three, the things you need to look at that are actually filled in. So I said, can I do this? And it said, yes, absolutely. That's a perfect use case. Please upload the purchase agreement and I'll extract the summary. So I uploaded the contract and then it said, here's a clean summary of the filled in terms. And so here we go. 949 North Kings Road, the APN number, the purchase price, the initial deposit, the loan amount, the balance, financing terms, loan conventional, interest rate cap, all of these things, buyers, Mark Allen and James Lee, seller brokerage, the name. This is one from 5 or 6 years ago. The address of the agent, you know, um, uh, it says here, agent Chuck Keller, Chris, last name not visible, Doug Rago, the phone number, all of the stuff, escrow holder, other key terms, acceptance dates, March 23rd, close of escrow, agency confirmation, all of this. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying this is absolutely perfect and everything is being, growing as we go. So you got to always check the work. And sometimes things are not exactly, and you got to call it out. But this is where it's going. This is my point. This is where it's going, and why do you want to embrace this? And this, I did this so quickly. This was probably like done in 2 minutes. So I've not gone back and verified this and everything, but I wanted you to see what it will do. And so it says, would you like a summary as a clean printable PDF or one per page? Is this possible in ChatGPT only, or does an agent have to use it in the other? Great question. What can you do in ChatGPT? Upload PDFs or contracts, ask for a summary, fill out the boilerplate legal jargon. Um, you've just got a lot of stuff. Bottom line for realtors, ChatGPT is more than enough for summarizing and extracting terms from contracts. So I don't know if y'all use this or not, but here it is, So how quick this is to do this. This is like minutes. And it took me, probably, 25, 30 minutes to fill that out the other day. And here it is. And you can send it, snapshot it, whatever. So is this helpful? Is anybody surprised?
I tell you, I use it all the time with contracts because still relatively new and I'm learning that stuff. So, and I've missed things before, which you've caught me on, Chuck. So, what I do is I upload it with the terms that I use, that Chris and I use for contracts and offers. I have those as like, okay, please check and for these things, but add any anomalies to it. And they'll print out something like this, and I'll look at that, and then I'll go to that anomaly in the contract immediately. And so, yeah, it really helps me out. It makes me look more of a professional than I really am, for sure.
Well,
And it saves so much time because I would spend an hour reading a contract and then summarizing it in an email when, I can upload it, get a summary while I'm reading it, and then check to see if it's right. And just like you saw in yours where it said, don't have Chris's last name, well, you need to take that out of your summary if you're showing it to a client.
And
But
Kevin, are you using Chat GPT for this or other AI sources?
I use Chat GPT.
Okay.
okay. Yeah, Douglas.
I just had a thing this past week. I was kind of in EXP jail or headed to EXP jail because of non-compliance on some of my social media. And it's one of those things that I always have trouble with. And I literally got in for 2 days and I'm down here in Mexico and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And I can't figure this out. And then my wife was like, why don't you just ask ChatGPT? I literally took each thing that they sent me, that Jessica sent me. First of all, I was typing it in, and then finally I was like, fuck it, I'll just copy it and paste it. And the moment I did, I didn't even have to ask it. It just figured it out, and it told me exactly where to go within each platform to figure it out. So, these things are great if you use them, but I tend to forget to use them. So,
Yeah, no, you're right. We do forget I mean, it's just unbelievable, some of the things. And you just gotta, I think the best thing I try to remember is just never use Google, because that's what we go. And Google, basically will give you all these articles. Now, Google does have AI built into it now, but Google will give you all these articles that you got to read through or something to you look at, and summaries of things or ratings on products you're going to buy or something. And I will just say, to ChatGPT, I need a, whatever, and what's the best one, and the least expensive with the best ratings, all five or close to it, and where's the link to get it, and they'll go Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, whatever, and you click it and you order it. So it's yeah, you just got to start thinking out a little outside. And those of us that have been around for a while, we get set in our ways and don't think about it. So has Kevin or Douglas, have either of you used it yet to do your bullet point summary of your contract and then say, now put it into a contract or car form, or for those of you in other states, put it into your state form? Has anybody
I
done
have,
that yet?
but I'm going to.
Okay, so I know that's coming, and I think we can already do it. And I was trying to play around with it right before this call because it hit me. And so, when any of you discover it, please let us know so that we can work on that. Because I mean, how amazing is it when you're out working with a buyer and you've got them in the car and they say, okay, or in another car, in our case, like in LA, we don't drive them around, but okay, I want to write an offer. And then you say, okay, and these are the terms, whatever, or send a little form to fill in for the buyer to fill in things if you need to, or fill in for you. I always say this, we should never ever try to use our memory to do stuff. So we'll always leave something else off. We'll either leave the home warranty or we'll leave, the deadline of expiration. I'm just thinking of these different things. So there should be just a checklist of things we ask a questionnaire, and then that just goes right into, whichever program we're using, and it writes the contract, and then we got to proof it, of course. Um, how many minutes that thing could be written by the time you get to your next destination? And then pretty soon, one of the things on here, I'll just scroll down. Here's some other point. Keep asking questions,
Mhm.
about things. Keep asking, and it will constantly go in and give you more things. So one of them has said, would you like for me to put this into a Glide format to go into Glide? And Chris knows about Glide, and some of you know about it. I don't know about Glide that much, but it will do it. I do want to say though strongly, it's not 100% correct yet, and it is not. It's built on a language model, which my understanding that means conversations going back and forth. So I've asked it certain things about um, comps. Like we recently did an appraisal on our property in Arkansas, and I said I need to know. I called my realtor there, and I said, what are the properties that have sold in the last 2 or 3 years that are specifically on the golf course? And there's only like 30 of them probably. And he named a couple, and I thought, I remember a couple more. And so I asked ChatGPT, and it named 3 or 4. And I said, but what about, the one at the end of the street, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yes, Chuck, you're right. It's blah, it went on. So it's not exactly right, but if you keep going, it will be. So you just got to check it. But anyway, here, another one is called Notebook LM. And Notebook LM is short for Notebook Language Model. It's Google DeepMind is the product, and it it says lets you upload your content, PDFs, Google Docs, notes, then ask questions, generate summaries. So it kind of maybe does similar, but maybe we play around with different ones. So make sure you wrote down Cursor, Cursor, and then Notebook LM. I did not look up yet one that Glenn really loves, and it's called Mind's Map, MINDMAP. I'm not even sure what it does, but I just know that that was one that they mentioned, and I have not looked it up yet. So, but here's the thing: this is why other agents will be beating those of us who don't embrace this technology. And it's not really that hard. I know some people are scared of it and all this kind of stuff, but I think it's there, and if you don't use it, someone else is. I think it also is kind of like back when smartphones came out, or phones came out. I remember a couple older friends of mine said, I can wait until I get home to talk to somebody. I don't have to always be in touch. And then, of course, years later, they're always on the phone when they're out, their grandmothers. Um, Same thing with smartphone. I remember hearing about the smartphone. We can order a pizza through, smartphone. I thought, well, why don't you just call and order the pizza? And now we know how that is. And with Uber and Lyft and all of those things, it's just, and then the robots in LA, that deliver the food. It's just what it is. And yeah, we can sit around and say, no, I don't like this and I'm not going to use it or whatever. That's fine. Um, but everything's going to have consequences, and I'm afraid someone else is going to beat us. But uh, if we can, like I said, if we can write a contract that fast or get information that fast, I'll give you another example. On this listing we have on Romaine, it has a moisture barrier underneath it. I had no idea what a moisture barrier is, and I've been selling for 25 years. And so I was telling everybody, it's got a moisture barrier. And someone said, oh, what does that do? And I said, it's a great add-on feature that is not really seen on products. And I just kind of talked my way through it. And then I told Chris, I got to look this up. And it turns out it's basically plastic that lays on the foundation or on the ground to keep the smell of mildew and mold coming up in the house, which is really important in these 1920 houses. And I don't know this for sure, but I feel like this house the floor, the hardwood floors don't have any separation of wood or creaking or anything. And I'm wondering if that affects it somehow too in a positive way. The other thing is it's not even very expensive. It's probably $3 or $4 a square foot. So it's a few $1,000s and makes a big improvement. When I mentioned it to Craig, he said, "Oh yeah, we have these in Seattle. It's a common thing." So anyway, my point is I just went on there and asked for, information about it. So what else are y'all using AI for that you can share with anybody?
I just want to ask, I know I came in late. Did you guys all see Glenn Sanford's thing about what AI this morning? His whole thing on, I think he posted on EXP and EXP, the death of courses, why AI is forcing a complete rethink of business education. Take a look on LinkedIn or on EXP. He's done a great article on it.
Okay, thank you. I haven't looked at that yet.
Yeah. People don't want to pay for mentoring anymore. It's talking about, it's like all of this is now can be done with AI.
Okay, so that you may have come on after I said that.
Right.
I know they're talking about using it as a coach.
Yeah.
And any kind of coach. It doesn't have to be just business. You could have a coach on, nutrition or whatever.
Therapist.
On what? Therapist?
Therapist.
Yeah, because
Just use it for that.
honestly, I mean, think about how much money everyone spends on a coach. And for example, Douglas Rowe plays with stock. What is it called? Where you rent it out?
I know. What do you do, hon, with stocks? Options and trading. There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay. So I remember it's like renting out your stock. I remember
Right.
that. All right. So there's an amazing tip probably that I could be doing a lot with, or any of us could be. And I heard her say it, but I've never really explored it. Of course, I wanted to call her and get her tell me about it, but I thought I don't, want to take her time telling me that. She's gone through a course and learned this stuff, right? And so now I can just plug this in and say, how do I use a stock, to do options and what's the best thing for me to do? Boom.
You're asking for a crystal ball.
There she is. There's the Wizard of Oz in the
Even if you
background.
have AI, the AI only can garner information based on stuff that's already happened.
Stuff that's already happened and has been discussed and talked about,
Yeah.
right? So
Can't read charts, or I guess it
It
could.
can read charts, but it can't predict the future.
Got it.
It can only tell you probability, but we all know what happens with that.
yeah, but probability is huge,
Right.
So, I mean, I know with my orthopedic doctor, when I was talking to him about this is back when the United Healthcare executive was murdered and all that stuff. And he said, "Hey, we plug in all of our stuff into AI to see what all the things that have been discussed, the charts, the studies and everything to help, diagnose." And so, he goes, "We don't, use it 100%, but it's a guideline and a tool." So it's the same thing. But here's another thing I was thinking. So I have a friend that is a retired hedge fund guy out of New York. And recently he just sold a stock he had bought in from 3 years ago. And, he bought it for, I don't know, $1 a share or whatever, and sold it and made 5 million. And so I said, "Okay, friend, what are you thinking this week?" And so he told me a couple, and he said, "Hey, I said, I'm not holding you to it, but anyway, it's one that I just put $1,000 into a month ago at $2 a share, and now it's at 8." And so it's not a crystal ball, no, but based on all the data of this company, what's the probability of it scaling, And so that's where I think, Rover, you're spot on about probability and that kind of stuff, So it's just
I was going to add something if that's okay.
absolutely.
So I'm Curtis. I'm from the Champaign area in Illinois, and I was meeting with a social media specialist this morning as one-on-one time to kind of build my brand better. And when I walked away, she gave me one good question that I think for this class, since we're talking about AI. So she said, type this question into your AI that you use regularly. I'm going to give it to y'all for free. And she said, this question in itself gives you the right feedback if you want to move forward. So it was, and you want to, it's a prompt. So this is a prompt question. So if you know much about prompting, you're trying to set up your AI to express its view based on what parameter you give it. So if you are, or you are a world-class business, marketing, social media, and real estate expert. So you've given him that prompt. Taking everything you know about me, what are my strengths and weaknesses I might be ignoring? And if you type this in verbatim, now, pending or pre-gaming that you've talked to your AI enough about your real estate and it knows what Facebook and YouTube and all this stuff about you, it already takes that all into consideration. So if you haven't done that, that's your pre-game. You need to go play with AI first and then ask it this question, because I will tell you the last part of the whole thing. So it's a strengths, does weaknesses, and then it says recommendations to leverage your strengths and weaknesses and address your weaknesses. And the biggest one that it said, automation tools. So this is for me. Explore affordable CRMs like HubSpot, other things. I use KB Core with EXP. I'm going to use Bold Trail, or other real estate specific platforms to automate client follow-up, track leads, freeing you, right? We all talking about this, of time, marketing, and networking. And so I thought, man, how amazing, in a 1-hour session with a one-on-one person that I didn't pay for. She bought the coffee. It was amazing just to hear that one nugget, because if we're looking at this world like you're talking about, Doug, as AI is going to change it and we have to lean into it or we're going to get lost, then we need to start asking it these questions about ourselves, again, based on the pre-game that we played with it already, to get better with it. And the only way we're going to get better with it is to use it like you're talking to me and you right now, right? And so I did it, and it was really mind-blowing, just that very vulnerable question. So if you're looking for something today, for me, that was my getaway from my one person. But I've really appreciated hearing all your guys' questions, because there's a lot. I use Grok, I've used ChatGPT. You guys got 10 or 16 more that I wrote down that I'm gonna try, and we'll see. But it's
Curtis,
a very different world.
Curtis, can you drop that
Question
in the in our
Yeah.
what are shared in our chat box?
in the chat, if that's easier for you. Yep, I got you right now.
Yeah, and we're also recording this too. So, and here's the thing: anybody that's in your groups, you certainly need to be sending this to them. They will receive this email with a recording when it goes out. But if they've opted out of our email somehow, then they're not getting it. So, and we know we all like delete all day long on things because we're so much spam. But this is a great recording to go back and listen to. And so, Curtis, you also said about Grok, which probably most people on here haven't heard of it. And I heard of it a couple of months ago at a mastermind. What's your experience with that in comparison to ChatGPT?
So right now, I started with ChatGPT. Grok is very different. So here's the side by side. If you want ChatGPT to do all that PDF creation and turn it into like a marketing plan, or if you want to do a time blocking thing, the Grok that I presented to everything for myself actually did it faster, did it more clear, streamlined it, and helped me time block. It also helped me create a marketing strategy plan by putting in all my data. Again, I like ChatGPT too, but I've had a lot more success with Grok in just the last couple of weeks. So again, you have to find out yours, and you have to spend time really in it. That's my advice.
That's good to hear. And what I did hear at that mastermind I went to the effect what you were talking about is you should say the prompt. Prompt means the question to put in, to prompt it to do stuff. So the prompt should be something like, tell me or ask me 50 questions about myself. And so that's, it will do that, but you also want to do this. I learned on something else. Ask me 50 questions about myself, one at a time, so I can answer it. Because if you're like me, you will like speed read through all 50 and try to answer the easy ones or whatever, and you won't go back. And so, to Curtis's point, whatever you're putting in, it's going to remember. And so, yesterday, for example, I had my sister told me about a type 1 diabetes diagnosis she had. And so months ago, I had put in stuff about, help for the situation for type 2. And anyway, so then I just put in this morning, I put, tell me about type 1 diabetes and insulin pump. And it went on and it referred to her name and everything because it already knew everything, right? And then it said, do you want me to tell you you want me to write a soft, email to send about this isn't a, a horrible thing. It's workable and all this kind of stuff. And so to Curtis's point, whatever you're telling it in, you need to tell it because it's going to remember. And I also got a nasty text from a renter that I have that is bipolar, and I know that, and has alienated all of her friends, and I know that. And it was just unbelievable what she's texted me yesterday. And it wasn't even true about the things she was saying, but she has her own belief about things. And I just put that text in. I said, how do I reply to this? And it knows me. It says, do you want a nice, you know, text? Do you want a sassy with a Southern twist to it? Or do you want a talking like a property manager? you know, and it gave me those options. And of course, I just wanted to, say exactly what I thought when she said it, but it wasn't even true what she was saying. But in her mind, she thinks she knows everything. And I just needed to tell her, hey, the contractor that went out last time told you it's not unsafe. It's a foundation that's got a slight, floor slant to it. And it needs to be done in 5 years when no one's living there because we got to bring up the floor and work on it from up above. But it's safe, but she's worked for a husband that was a builder and thinks she knows everything and was saying she can't use a third of the house and all this kind of stuff. And, basically, Craig said, tell her if she feels like she needs to move, that's fine, but I just, I couldn't believe it, but it gave me such a nice response. And so anyway, I'm just telling y'all, you got to be using it all day long. It should be an app on your phone. I'm like, Douglas, don't even, write it in, copy and paste, or just hit the microphone button and talk. That's fast and it'll clean up anything you're saying. Anyone else got any experience or thoughts, comments?
I'm probably using it very basic. I use it to write my listing descriptions. Like yesterday, I wanted a price adjustment for a client. So I gave it some information and then it spit back out all the reasons that we should get a price reduction. And I got it. So I was thrilled.
Yeah. And Renee, I mean, you and I were talking back in October in the hall,
Right.
remember, out front
Yeah.
with Rob, and we were talking
Uh-huh.
about it. And then you came on in our this Zoom we do in November, and we were talking about it. So you're saying you're just using it only for descriptions right now?
I use it for my listing descriptions. I use it for a lot of email summaries too. But I mean, I'm using it very basic. There's a lot more I could be doing with it that I don't use. I use it though for like any social media posts that I put out there. I kind of put in there what I want and say, okay, create this for me with emojis and but very basic compared to a lot of what these other people are doing from what I'm hearing. Because I haven't even heard of Grok or Mind Map.
And let me ask you just an honest question. Why are you just using it for that? Because you're not thinking about it, or you're
Probably. I don't really think about it until I need it.
okay,
If that makes sense.
okay,
You know how you're
because
set in your ways and you do something a certain way, so you're not
yes.
thinking that you need it.
Yeah, totally. But also too, we were looking at expanding our Instagram following, and Doug made the comment, well, we have this amount, a number of like 150. And so I thought, okay, well, so I put in there, okay, we have 150. I would like 5,000. I just pulled that number out. I would like 5,000 by December. And this was a couple months ago. What do we need to do to make that happen? And it gave out a whole long list of stuff. And I was really, amazed at that. And there again, it's just a step-by-step process of how to do that. And I think back to that whole point about being a therapist or a coach or whatever, I think the one key word in the prompt is, be honest with me. You know how I am. If you're a procrastinator like me, or, whatever it is, be honest, and it will. And I asked it too the other day, how will you remind me? Like, can you email me or text me? And it doesn't have that capability yet. So you're going to have to kind of like check in with it. But it's an easy app on your phone. And here's the other great thing. This is such a great tool for sharing with other agents, and they're really saying a lot of this is give it all away for free. Don't try to hold it back. Telling agents what all they can do with this, and that's a great tool. I was on a appointment the other day showing a property, and I was talking with the agent, and I said, "How much are you using, AI?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, I use it for my listing descriptions." And I think she said one more thing, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well," I said, I'll sit down with you later and talk," because the client was there and everything. I said, "But I'll just say using it for your listing descriptions is kind of like when I buy a car and I just want to know how to turn on satellite radio and put it in drive and park and lock or whatever. And then later when I go and sell it and I look at the manual and go, oh, it did all this stuff and I didn't even know that." So I said, you're kind of using it for just one little thing. And I will also say this too. The descriptions are getting to where you can tell they're all AI generated.
Yeah, you definitely have to edit them. They're not, I mean, at least I do because I don't like it to sound like that. So even after it's produced, I'm like, okay, I need to go back and tweak it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's definitely the case. When it says like "Welcome to 123 Main Street," I mean, you know, and also too, there's a point of that is that's looks pretty, but then some people just want to get straight to it, and find out about a property. But the other one you might want to write down, I have not really played with, but I think Kevin, you have, is Lovable. Haven't you played with that one?
Which one?
Lovable.
Yeah, so yeah, I created a IDX website on it, but I didn't publish it.
How long did it take you to create that?
7 minutes.
Okay, 7 minutes to create a website. So here was what I was told. When you're going on a listing appointment, you can, first of all, Chris ordered the other day from GoDaddy for $12 for the year, the domain for this property that we have this listing on. So you've got, whatever the property address is, .com or .whatever, that's going to be least expensive for $12. You can order that. Now, number one, you've already kind of wrapped that up to where another agent can't get that. That gives you a point right there in a presentation. But basically what was demonstrated to us, I believe in that regional rally that Kevin got this from, and I did too, was going on a listing appointment, have your website already created. It took him 7 minutes to create that. And, maybe use the pictures from the previous listing, if that's the case, or you go snap some pictures or whatever you can do. But you go create that website, you walk into your listing presentation. And I thought this was really good. I heard this somewhere. Don't tell them what you're going to do. Don't give them this list and say, we're going to create a website. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Show them what you're going to do. So you walk in and you go, Mr. Seller, and before you even talk about price or commission, show them all this stuff. I've created this website. Look at this, click through it, show them how beautiful it is, and that you've already bought the domain name and no one else can buy that now. You could really rally on that for a little bit and show how impressive that is. And then I remember Leo saying, create, 10 social media, Facebook, Instagram posts that are sharp and everything, and show those what those are going to be. All of this stuff, outline it, boom, 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 boom. You're going to blow away anyone else coming in there that's going to say, we're going to send out postcards, we're going to do a website, we're going to do all this stuff. And I will tell you, this last listing, I was told that the other people's marketing blew away what I presented. I was like, but there again, the situation was because of the personal connection, and knew that, what I would do, what we would do, that we followed through and all this kind of stuff. That won. So it was relationship, it was SOI, but I realized I better step up the marketing. So going forward, we better create a website. I know that we also went on an appointment back last winter and didn't talk much about marketing, or didn't show it. We probably talked about it. And then the seller later was like, well, I want to see some examples of marketing. So if you've done all of that, and you get really savvy at your presentation at the end, when they say, what do you charge? And you say this, and you stand behind it because of all of that, I think it's going to be really successful. But To create a website in 7 minutes, that's absolutely, I would say, mandatory on a listing presentation. And then to go ahead and buy for $12 to show that. And then you can say, let me just send it to you right now and text it to you. And I want you to send this to all your friends when we list it and post it on your social media. It just will blow everybody away, And so anyway, that's the other one, Lovable, Mind Map, and Agent AI. I haven't looked at that one yet, but I wrote that one down. Anything else anyone's thinking about? Or any comments? I also recently used ChatGPT to price out. I think I've told you all this before, but I'll say it again. I loaded a inspection report into ChatGPT and I said, tell me the top 5 concerns most buyers would have on this and price it out according to the zip code, whatever the zip code is. And it went right through it and gave me a bullet point list. Has anybody done that?
What I recently did, I have a listing coming up next week, and so I was, got the listing agreement signed, met with the sellers, went over the property review, and before I went to the property review, I went and chat GPT and I go, what are some good things to look for? What's the create a checklist for visual inspection of a property pre-listing. Gave me the things. So I went into my meeting with the seller. We looked at everything. Seller did everything that I said. I couldn't believe it. It said, paint your house. You painted it. It's great. So anyway, and that's after that, it's like, okay, so that's great. It worked. Objective accomplished. You go, well, chat, can you create a PDF that I can post on Facebook that I can create a post that shows that I'm an expert in pre-listing checklists, and it created one. I posted it and I got, I don't know, 100 views, and it was just nice. And so when you're thinking about it, think about it 3-dimensionally, or 360-degree view. How can chat help you with your client, but how can chat help you with your brand at the same time in the same experience? So
Yeah. And also,
and also, Kurt, I just put the prompt in to chat GPT, and it was dead on. Said my weaknesses are I'm too polite, I am a workaholic, and I might burn out, and I'm camera shy. So right on
There you
time.
go. There you go.
yeah.
So
No,
what are you gonna do, right? What are you gonna
Yeah,
do?
exactly. I know it gave me recommendations what to do, everything.
how many of you are listening to or subscribe to Wendy Forsythe's weekly podcast and everything? Any of you?
I'm not subscribed, but I've listened to it.
I am. Yep.
Okay. So last week, she interviewed, what's his name, from North Carolina? I can't remember his name. Anyway, it's an amazing call you want to listen to. And I was driving to Costco and I had my earbuds in and I was listening to it. But he has a company, he's developed a company basically. And
Bill Strigner.
yes,
Yeah.
Bill Stringer. So he's really into it. We heard him at Anaheim last summer at the regional rally. And he was just talking about the things you can do. And it was really amazing. He spends a lot of time on it. And so he is actually a coach with a company that you can be on calls with him and really take it to another level. However, he gives a lot of free content away. Just follow him, you'll get it. You'll hear things that you can just easily use for free, and very helpful. And he was talking about videos that remind me of you, Kevin, with your videos you take and then throwing it into Opus, I think it was Opus Clip or something, and it really puts it together. And I know, Kevin, you bought the GoPro. I'm going to use the iPhone and a wide angle lens to do some stuff and do that same kind of thing. So anyway, be sure and listen to that because you'll definitely get ideas from it. And all this stuff's out there. It's just we want to do it, right? Anything else before we wrap up?
I put the link to the podcast in the notes.
Okay. And up there, Garrett's note taker put in fixer.ai, FYXER.ai. So if you're a capper at EXP, you're going to be given this one for free. I think it's about $30 a month, but Glenn is giving it to all cappers. I haven't been able to use it yet because it does not integrate well with Apple Mail, but it will be. But basically, the advantage of this is it will review your emails while you're out during the day, and it will draft a reply to your emails, and then you can sit down and hit send or edit it, whatever. I know Jessica said it saves her about an hour a day. And also for me, it would be great because I miss emails sometimes because I get so many and technology doesn't work great for me for some reason. So, I mean, my fault, but I just have trouble with it. So I think that's huge because this way you don't ever forget somebody. Because a lot of times I will forget to reply to a text or something, and this brings it back up and reminds you. So it is free for cappers. So you're already getting it, but if not, if you want to check into the cost of it, I think
Looks like we lost Chuck. Can you hear me? Anybody?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, let's go ahead.
Yes.
We were wrapping up anyway. So everybody go out there and have a great day, and we will look forward to seeing you on the next one.
You
Thanks, Doug.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye, guys.